James Augustine Aloysius Joyce, 2nd of February 1882 to the 13th of January 1941, was an Irish novelist, poet and literary critic. He contributed to the modernist avant-garde movement and is regarded as one of the most influential and important writers of the 20th century. Joyce's novel Ulysses, 1922, is a landmark in which the episodes of Homer's Odyssey are paralleled in a variety of literary styles, particularly stream of consciousness. Other well-known works are the short story collection Dubliners, 1914, and the novels A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, 1916, and Finnegan's Wake, 1939. His other writings include 3 books of poetry, a play, letters, and occasional journalism. On the beach at Fontana. Wind whines and winds the shingle, the crazy pier stakes groan, a senile sea numbers each single slime-silvered stone. From whining wind and colder grey sea I wrap him warm, and touch his fine-boned boyish shoulder and trembling arm. Around us fear descending, darkness of fear above, and in my heart how sweet unending ache of love. Quotes from Ulysses. Think you're escaping and run into yourself. Longest way round is the shortest way home. Alone. The moon's soft golden meshes make all night a veil. The shore lamps in the sleeping lake laburnum tendrils trail. The sly reeds whisper in the night a name, her name, and all my soul is a delight, a swoon of shame. Joyce was born in Dublin into a middle-class family. He attended the Jesuit Clongowes Wood College in County Kildare, then briefly the Christian Brothers-run O'Connell School. Despite the chaotic family life imposed by his father's unpredictable finances, he excelled at the Jesuit Belvedere College and graduated from University College Dublin in 1902. In 1904, he met his future wife, Nora Barnacle, and they moved to mainland Europe. He briefly worked in Pula and then moved to Trieste in Austria-Hungary, working as an English instructor. Except for an 8-month stay in Rome working as a correspondence clerk and 3 visits to Dublin, Joyce resided there until 1915. She weeps over Rahoon. Rain on Rahoon falls softly, softly falling, where my dark lover lies. Sad is his voice that calls me, sadly calling at grey moonrise. Love, hear thou how desolate the heart is, ever calling, ever unanswered, and the dark rain falling, then as now. Dark too our hearts, O love, shall lie, and cold as his sad heart has lain. Under the moon-grey nettles, the black mould and muttering rain. In Trieste, he published his book of poems Chamber Music and his short story collection Dubliners, and he began serially publishing A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man in the English magazine The Egoist. During most of World War I, Joyce lived in Zurich, Switzerland, and worked on Ulysses. After the war, he briefly returned to Trieste and then moved to Paris in 1920, which became his primary residence until 1940. Night Piece. Gaunt in gloom, the pale stars their torches enshrouded wave. Ghost fires from heaven's far verges faint illume, arches on soaring arches, night's sin-dark nave. Seraphim, the lost hosts awaken to service, till in moonless gloom each lapses, muted, dim, raised when she has and shaken her thurible. And long and loud to night's nave upsoaring a star knell tolls, as the bleak incense surges cloud on cloud voidward from the adoring waste of souls. Ulysses was first published in Paris in 1922, but its publication in the United Kingdom and the United States was prohibited because of its perceived obscenity. Copies were smuggled into both countries and pirated versions were printed until the mid-1930s, when publication finally became legal. Joyce started his next major work, Finnegan's Wake, in 1923, publishing it 16 years later in 1939. Between these years, Joyce travelled widely. He and Nora were married in a civil ceremony in London in 1931. He made a number of trips to Switzerland, frequently seeking treatment for his increasingly severe eye problems and psychological help for his daughter, Lucia. History, Stevens said, is a nightmare from which I am trying to awake. Song. My love is in a light attire, among the apple trees where the gay winds do most desire to run in companies. There where the gay winds stay to woo the young leaves as they pass, my love goes slowly bending to her shadow on the grass. And where the skies a pale blue cup over the laughing land, my love goes lightly holding up her dress with dainty hand. When France was occupied by Germany during World War II, Joyce moved back to Zurich in 1940. He died there in 1941 after surgery for a perforated ulcer, less than 1 month before his 59th birthday. A man of genius makes no mistakes. His errors are volitional and are the portals of discovery. Ulysses frequently ranks high in lists of great books of literature, and the academic literature analysing his work is extensive and ongoing. Many writers, filmmakers and other artists have been influenced by his stylistic innovations, such as his meticulous attention to detail, use of interior monologue, wordplay, and the radical transformation of traditional plot and character development. her antiquity in preceding and surviving succeeding Tellurian generations, her nocturnal predominance, her satellitic dependence, her luminary reflection, her constancy under all her phases, rising and setting by her appointed times, waxing and waning, the forced invariability of her aspect, her indeterminate response to inaffirmative interrogation, her potency over effluent and refluent waters, her power to enamor, to mortify, to invest with beauty, to render insane, to incite to and aid delinquency, the tranquil inscrutability of her visage, the terribility of her isolated, dominant, resplendent propinquity, her omens of tempest and of calm, the stimulation of her light, her motion and her presence, the admonition of her craters, her arid seas, her silence, her splendor when visible, her attraction when invisible. Though most of his adult life was spent abroad, his fictional universe centres on Dublin and is largely populated by characters who closely resemble family members, enemies and friends from his time there. Ulysses in particular is set in the streets and alleyways of the city. Joyce is quoted as saying, "For myself, I always write about Dublin, because if I can get to the heart of Dublin, I can get to the heart of all the cities of the world. In the particular is contained the universal." The supreme question about a work of art is out of how deep a life does it spring. Tutto è schiellotto. Her silent eyes and her soft foam-white brow and fragrant hair falling as in the silence falleth now dusk from the air. Ah, why wilt thou remember these, or why, poor heart, repine if the sweet love she yielded with a sigh was never thine? Every life is in many days, day after day. We walk through ourselves, meeting robbers, ghosts, giants, old men, young men, wives, widows, brothers in love, but always meeting ourselves. Flood, gold brown upon the sated flood, the rock vine clusters lift and sway. Vast wings above the lambent waters brood of sullen day. A waste of waters ruthlessly sways and uplifts its weedy mane, where brooding day stares down upon the sea in dull disdain. Uplift and sway, O golden vine, thy clustered fruits to love's full flood, lambent and vast and ruthless as is thine incertitude. What incensed him the most was the blatant jokes of the ones that passed it all off as a jest, pretending to understand everything and in reality not knowing their own minds. A bird. It held its flight, a swift pure cry, saw silver orb, it leaped serene, speeding, sustained to come, don't spin it out too long, long breath he breathes, long life, soaring high, high resplendent, aflame, crowned high in the effulgent symbolistic high of the ethereal bosom. People could put up with being bitten by a wolf, but what properly riled them was a bite from a sheep. A flower given to my daughter. Frail the white rose, and frail are her hands that gave, whose soul is sear and paler than time's wan wave. Rose frail and fair, yet frailest, a wonder wild, in gentle eyes the veilest, my blue-veined child. Simples. O bella bionda si camionda. Of cool sweet dew and radiance mild, the moon and web of silence weaves, in the still garden where a child gathers the simple salad leaves. A moon dew stars her hanging hair, and moonlight touches her young brow, and gathering she sings an air, fair as the wave is, fair art thou. Be mine, I pray, a waxen ear to shield me from her childish croon, and mine a shielded heart to her who gathers simples of the moon. Ineluctable modality of the visible, at least that if no more, thought through my eyes, signatures of all things I am here to read, sea spawn and sea rack, the nearing tide, that rusty boot, snot green, blue silver, rust, coloured signs, limits of the diaphane, but he adds in bodies. Then he was aware of them bodies before of them coloured. How? By knocking his sconce against them? Sure. Go easy. Bald he was, and a millionaire. Maestro di Colocesano. Limit of the diaphane. In. Why in? Diaphane. A diaphane. If you can put your 5 fingers through it, it is a gate, if not a door. Shut your eyes and see. High of the high vast irradiation, everywhere, all soaring all around about me all, the endlessness. Stephen closed his eyes to hear his boots crush, crackling wrack and shells. You are walking through it, howsomever. I am, astride at a time. a very short space of time through very short times of space. 5, 6, the nascianda, exactly, and that is the ineluctable modality of the audible. Open your eyes. No, Jesus, if I fell over a cliff, that beetles over his base fell through the nebaninanda. Ineluctably, I am getting on nicely in the dark. My ash sword hangs at my side. Tap with it. They do. My 2 feet in his boots are at the end of his legs. Nebaninanda. Sounds solid made by the mallet of Los Emergos. Am I walking into eternity along Sandy Mount Strand? Crush, crack, crick, crick. Wild sea money. Domini DC kens them are. Sandy Mount, Madeline the Mare. Rhythm begins, you see, I hear. A catalectic tetrameter of eams marching, no, a gallop, Deline the Mare. Open your eyes now. I will. One moment. Has all vanished since? If I open and am forever in the black Adir fane, basta. I will see it if I can see. See now, there all the time without you, and ever shall be world without end. What reminiscences temporarily corrugated his brow? Reminiscence of coincidences, truth stranger than fiction, pre-indicative of the result of the Gold Cup flat handicap, the official and definitive result of which he had read in the Evening Telegraph, late pink edition in the cabman shelter at Butt Bridge. Where had previous intimations of the result, effected or projected, be received by him? In Bernard Kiernan's licensed premises, 8, 9 and 10, Little Britain Street; in David Burns' licensed premises, 14 Duke Street; in O'Connell Street Lower, outside Graham Lemon's, when a dark man had placed in his hand a throwaway, subsequently thrown away, advertising Elijah, restorer of the church in Zion; in Lincoln Place, outside the premises of F.W. Sweeney and Company Limited, dispensing chemists, when Frederick N. Bantam Lyons had rapidly and successively requested, perused, and restituted the copy of the current issue of the Freeman's Journal and National Press, which he had been about to throw away, subsequently thrown away, he had proceeded towards the Oriental edifice of the Turkish and Warm Bars, 11 Leinster Street, with the light of inspiration shining in his countenance and bearing in his arms the secret of the race, graven in the language of prediction. His mood he had not risked, he did not expect, he had not been disappointed, he was satisfied. What satisfied him? To have sustained no positive loss, to have brought a positive gain to others, light to the Gentiles. An ambition to squint at my verses in print makes me hope that for these you'll find room. If you so condescend, then please place at the end the name of yours truly, L. Bloom.
He asked again, and she said, yes.